Hey guys, welcome back to the Pizza Story podcast. I have Chris Barnes with us today from Ida's Pizzeria, and they're out in Philly. So I was really looking forward to this interview. So, Chris, hi, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, it's very nice to meet you. I have, of course, been stalking your Instagram page, and your pizza's like next level, looks absolutely amazing. And so I want to hear the whole story about Ida's Pizzeria and how it started and, your history in Philly and all that kind of stuff.
I'd love to. I'd love to. The whole thing begins. I grew up in Connecticut. I was born in New Haven. You know, was there through college, and continued to go back. And during COVID, the one thing that I missed more than anything in the world was New Haven pizza and Connecticut pizza in general, but New Haven specifically. Um, it's these huge old coal burning ovens, and they have this flavor that you can't recreate anywhere. Um, But here, there's a lot of really great pizza in Philadelphia, but nothing similar to that style. So no matter how well I went, what we did, I kind of got homesick, and I have a couple other restaurants with some partners and called Lucky's Last Chance. And during COVID, we kind of had to pivot. They were mostly sit down, very casual places, but we had to pivot to um, doing something we'd really never done before, which was a lot of takeout. And we actually got on the delivery apps. Um, for better, for worse, but it allowed us to kind of keep staff working during those periods of time, keep people getting paychecks, and kind of just pay enough of the bills to stay afloat during COVID. And we have very small kitchens in both restaurants. So once we were finally able to start seating people in the restaurants again, we very quickly had to scale back offering delivery and takeout and things along those lines, because we've always prioritized the customers. They're sitting right in front of us first, right? They have to get the best experience. I don't ever want somebody to wait a minute longer than they need to so I can get a DoorDash order out the door, because it's not fair to the people who chose to spend their time to come down and sit with us and spend the day with us. So walking out of this, managed we were getting a lot of bad reviews about these guys aren't doing delivery anymore, and people were upset with us, because after COVID, not everybody was ready to come back out.
Yeah.
And we started getting beat up a little bit on that. And first I was really upset about it. I was like, how do we do something? But the silver lining to it was that people enjoyed what we were doing enough to be that upset. So I think there's something complimentary to it there. But we still wanted to figure out a way to, take care of those people and take care of the people that really needed that. So we found this kitchen space that had been empty for a few years, and it had giant pizza ovens in it, but it was a huge kitchen, actually larger than both of our other two put together.
Hmm.
So we took this space with the intention of it being really just a ghost kitchen for us, takeout and delivery space for us, so we could serve our Lucky's Last Chance customers. Simultaneously, this, pizza oven has been staring at me. And so I've been, as a hobby, making pizza at home for years. And, my wife, as my best taste tester, especially through COVID, it was in every single week, maybe 2 or 3 days a week. There was constantly dough trays in the fridge for 2 days, trying to get a great cold fermentation and really start to dial in flavors.
Hmm.
Um, and so as we got up and running with this ghost kitchen space, which eventually evolved into more of an incubator. We started allowing people to come inside. We do have seats and things like that in there now, and we decided to use it as a pop-up space / incubator for other stuff because the space was so large.
Hmm.
And so we opened a sandwich shop, and everybody kept asking about these pizza ovens, and I kept saying, yeah, well, maybe we'll play with those someday. Um, and we finally got to this point where I said, okay, let's just make a couple of pizzas. We'll do a fun thing. Maybe we'll do a pop-up. Maybe we'll do this. And I've been in the restaurant industry for almost 30 years and
Yeah.
never in a pizza place, though. I've done pretty much everything from high-end steakhouses to nightclubs to you name it. But pizza is one thing I've just never really worked in. And so for me, this was just a hobby, and I was anybody else who had never done this before. um, and so we started doing some just taste testings for staff and some staff tastings there. everybody really responded great to the pizza that we were doing. And, we call it New Haven inspired because you can't replicate that old coal oven. But man, we were cranking these were, old, probably sometime in the 90s, Baker's Pride ovens that maxed out at 650 degrees. We were trying to cook at 675 degrees. So we would just have these things screaming for 2, 3 hours to try to get them up to temp, just to fire off, 6, 8 pizzas for our team. And the response was great. And so we decided, let's give it a swing and let's open a couple days a week and just, 4 or 5 hours a day and just throw some pizzas out and see how it goes. And this kind of took off organically. And once we finally committed to, 4 days a week, 4 hours a day, these big old gas ovens couldn't keep up with what we were doing. We were beating them to death. So right as we're starting to take off in this direction and we're starting to gain some momentum, our pizza ovens are kind of going this direction and put us in a very peculiar spot because here we were doing this thing because we had these ovens in place and we didn't want to take them out. And now all of a sudden they weren't working for us and we were having to, take 15 minutes an hour off just to let the decks heat back up
Oh,
so we
geez.
could get the color on the bottom. So now we're, trying desperately to push out, 14 pizzas an hour was like a nightmare. It
Yeah.
was so tough. But the response was so good. So we had this, little turning point where we finally bit the bullet and went and found the best way we could replicate coal fire from a temperature standpoint and from a moisture standpoint. And we went with electric ovens. It was one of the best things we could do.
Wow.
But, we had to make all these adjustments to hydration and things like that to try to keep the product the same. But the consistency of the cook just went from hopefully we can get close to being able to fire them out quicker, more consistent, better product for the customer. And hopefully they notice that. And just as we started to get into a pretty good routine, we decided we were going to open up one more day a week. And, we were finally like really starting to dial things in, but just starting to dial in. Dave Portnoy came in and came
Wow.
in on an off night for us.
Yeah.
Our main pizza guy was actually the first time he's called out in 2 years. And
Oh my gosh.
pouring rain outside, and we had a charity event going on. The other concepts there. So super short staffed and getting slammed from this other thing. And I'll never forget this. The girl who was in charge of running the charity event walks up to me, and I was in the back trying to expo and get us moving. And she says, "Hey, Dave Portnoy's out in the dining room." And I laughed at her, and she said, "No, really." And I peeked out into the dining room and went, "Holy smokes. We're not ready for this. We've been open for, a little over a year, and
Yeah.
we're just trying to get this new oven dialed in." One of the most terrifying moments of my life. My wife will kill
Yeah.
me for this, but like it rivaled having kids and getting married in terms of the anxiety that went into it. But fortunately for us, we ended up with an 8.1, which
It's
I was thrilled to
incredible.
death with, especially considering just kind of where we're at in our trajectory.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the story of how we got here. I
Wow,
mean,
I love it. I love it.
it's
That's a great story. Really, really cool. So tell me about your menu. I want to hear about like, what's on your menu, what kind of pizzas you serve, and your best sellers.
so we're very, very traditional. I think in a day and age of everybody trying to throw a million things on pizzas. And by the way, we do that with our burgers. If you know Lucky's Last Chance at all, we're famous for a peanut butter and bacon burger with side of
Mm,
house made jelly, and a pickle monster burger and mac and cheese on a burger. Like this is what we do. And with this concept, I really wanted it to be more traditional, more true to form. And I grew up, eating at Pepe's. Frank Pepe's pretty much every Sunday. And if Pepe's line was too big, we didn't feel like waiting, we'd go to Sally's. If Sally's line
yeah.
was too big, we'll get in the car and go over to Modern. And that was kind of our step, and there was just something really wonderful about the simplicity behind it. And so when we opened, we wanted to keep it really, really simple. Have a great pepperoni, have a raw sausage that had a ton of fennel flavor to it and everything else. And we'd actually cook that on the pizza, and stay
Mm.
true to kind of those New Haven roots. And so we haven't branched out a whole lot, in terms of being experimental. It's very, very small. We added a salad, just a simple Italian salad to our menu, about 3 months ago, and it's as crazy as we've gotten at this point. Um, but
Yeah.
a lot of the specialty pies for us, New Haven tomato pie, which is essentially just a mozzarella free pie with pecorino romano and you know crushed sauce, and it's a fresh sauce on all of our pizzas. We don't
Yes.
cook them before we make them. We don't cook sauce before we put it on the pizza. And so we have this New Haven tomato. We have a bacon and garlic, which is probably my favorite. And it was my favorite growing up. We have a sausage, white sausage, broccoli rabe,
Mm.
um, that I'm obsessed with. And our best seller right now is actually a meatball and ricotta pizza. Um, we
Delicious.
we can't keep it in stock, and then we pay tribute to the New Haven spots, and we do a potato and rosemary as a seasonal. We do a summer tomato as a seasonal.
Hmm.
Again, there's so many transplants here in this Philly area. There's so many New York transplants, but Connecticut, like Southern New England transplants. Um, it's amazing how many times you'll see the list of orders for today, and it's 203 area codes and 860, all these Connecticut area codes ordering
Wow.
pizza from us. So we wanted to make sure that we were kind of doing things right by them, and hopefully, giving them a little taste that they miss from being at home. That's why we call it New Haven inspired instead of New Haven style. We do a white clam pizza, which obviously Frank Pepe's is very famous for,
Hmm.
and we only do that on Thursdays to try to keep it fresh and keep everything, um, as fresh as possible. But yeah, we really try to stay traditional to that style and what they do.
I think for really good pizza places, when you have that traditional style, you never get sick of the pizza. Like, I've been eating my family's pizza for like they've been open 60 years. I've been eating it for my whole life. And I still go and I get the plain traditional pizza and I'm still not sick of it. And I think when a pizza place is really good, you can just have those pizzas over and over and they're still so delicious.
That's the beauty of pizza, and in pizza, there's different styles of pizza and everything else that are great for everyone. My family, we're suckers for a Sicilian, on a pretty regular basis. I mean, there's something so comforting about that style of pizza. But I agree with you. The traditional pies you never get tired of. And um, I always said you can tell a really great pizza by how you feel 2 hours after you eat it. When you have dough that doesn't have sugar and it doesn't have all these things in it, and it's not processed, your body feels so much better afterward. You go, damn, I think I want another slice of pizza. Like that's how you know
Yep.
that it's a good pie. For us, that long, slow, cold fermentation develops flavor, and it also makes the pizza so much easier to digest. Um, as opposed to, and I'm sure you do this at your family's place too. Day of doughs, not very easily digestible. They're a little more challenging. So once you get into this kind of stuff, they eat cleaner, they eat better. You can kind of be a pig and feel okay about it the next day.
Yeah. Now, what is your favorite pizza?
So it changes by the day.
Yeah, me too.
But it gotta be honest, like I don't order sausage out very much because sausage pizza is one of those things that's so polarizing.
Yeah.
So many places use pre-cooked sausage, or there's rabbit pellet sausage, or things like that. And so I rarely order it out unless I've seen it and know that it's good. But when you cook raw sausage on top of that pizza and it cooks in the oven and those oils kind of, you can't beat that flavor. You just
Yeah.
can't. And a traditional pepperoni is wonderful, and all these things are really, really great. But for me, a really great sausage pizza, I don't even care what else is on it. That's what I want all the time.
Yeah. That sounds really good.
It's funny that growing up, you go to these slice shops and they would throw stuff on top of them and then throw them back in the oven for a minute, but
Yeah.
they never really incorporated. It always just felt like something on top of something.
Hmm.
When we do it with our bacon as well. The bacon goes on the pizza's raw, and it
Wow.
cooks in the oven. And, we're roughly 675 degrees for 8 to 10 minutes. You get a nice little crisp on the top. It's cooked through, but you get all the oils that kind of infuse in the rest of it. And so the whole pizza has this like flavor to it. There's something magical about that. That's where all the fun stuff happens.
Absolutely. It sounds like you guys offer not just like pizza, but it's a whole experience when you come into your place.
So hopefully the evolution for us is to be a sit down place. I mean, the biggest pushback we get right now is we don't do slices.
Yeah.
We don't do delivery. So it is really takeout, or we have a handful of tables inside that you can sit at. But it's not a full, server service situation because it's a shared space.
Hmm.
And, we've gone back and forth about what's the next steps for us? How do we move forward? And I think the experience for the customers is a sit down space with server service that, um, hopefully has beer and a great cocktail program that can support it. But I think for this style of pizza and what we do, it's really about, that experience, spending that time with family and bringing in a bunch of people so we can share two pizzas instead of one, or three pizzas instead of two, and having a big group and everybody kind of sharing in those flavors and that same level of full and that same experience. I mean, that's the magic of like a true pizzeria to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with you. Now, I want you to tell me, I love the city of Philadelphia. I grew up in Pittsburgh and I spent a lot of time in Philly. My aunt and uncle lived there. I lived in Ocean City, New Jersey. What is it like doing business in the city of Philadelphia?
So I love Philly.
Yeah.
It's definitely an adopted second home for me. I think it is the smallest big city in the country. These
Yeah.
little neighborhoods where everyone knows everyone, they feel like small towns, and yet are all part of this larger thing. Um, it's fun, it's inspiring, it's challenging, it's all of these things. And people ask all the time, like, why don't you guys do anything in the burbs? Why don't you get out of the city? It's so much easier. You're not competing with all these great chefs and things along those lines. And they're right. But that competition really helps everybody push their game every single day. And what most people don't, I think most outsiders don't know about the restaurant industry in Philly is so many of the restaurateurs are open to sharing ideas and thoughts and feedback. And, a lot of us are friends and get along and spend time together and go out to eat at other people's places together. So
Yeah.
there's this resource group that you have of everybody sharing and inspiring and pushing the next person to go on. But it's also just a great support group when you're like, hey, man, I'm running into a really tough situation. What do I do here?
Yeah.
There's 20 people who are willing to jump in and help you. And I think it's one of I don't know if every other city is like this or not, but it's one of the coolest parts about being in Philly that the restaurant scene is filled with so many characters and so many just wonderful humans that kind of share what I do about food, which is, food's our love language. And when food's your love language, you care about that more than anything else. And you want to help the people around you, and you want to help the people in your neighborhood because you want to help raise your whole neighborhood up. It's kind of
Yeah.
the coolest part about it, I think.
Yeah. I
By the way,
totally agree.
I love myself some Pittsburgh. Um, from Yancey Brothers, Strip District,
Me
because not all
too.
of them are created equal. Um, what a wonderful spot to be in. But there's some really wonderful foods in Pittsburgh.
Oh, for sure. I love Pittsburgh. I love to go eat there. We've been going to the original Permane since I was a kid. It's a really, really good spot.
Yeah, I wish all of them were that good because
Yeah, they're
they're
not all
actually
the same.
no, and they've started to creep out this way a little bit. There's one about 45 minutes from us,
Yeah.
and it is definitely not the same.
Mm-mm. Nope, not the same as the original. Yeah, we have them close by to where my parents are, but we always drive into the city to go to the original one. There's just no beating it.
Yeah, and part of it's probably just the charm of that building and how they make their sandwiches and the tradition that goes into it. But man, yeah, it used to be my favorite thing when I would get into Pittsburgh every time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, same here. And we'd go to a Bucks game and we would always get permanis, and it was just like a whole experience, a whole day that we would do together as a family.
I love it. I love
Yep.
it.
So, okay. So if people were looking to find you guys, how do they find you?
So we're most of our we're actually located in Lucky's Trading Company, which is the name of the incubator slash kitchen space that we share.
Hmm.
And it's in Ridge Avenue in Roxborough.
Okay.
We're most active on Instagram, so at Eda's underscore pizzeria is the easiest way to find us. But edaspizzeria.com as well has our links to everything and all of our menus and all the good stuff.
Awesome. Well, Chris, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks
Guys,
so much for having me.
yeah, for any time. I love the story. It was absolutely amazing. Guys, go and follow them at EDAS underscore pizzeria on Instagram. And their pizzas look absolutely amazing. And let me tell you, the next time I fly into Philly, you guys are going to be my first stop.
You hit me up, you let me know, we'll make sure we got something special for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.